The British government have received a new report by the left-wing pressure groups to cancel certain people who happen to be conservative, nationalist, or libertarian. And in this video, we're going to get your reaction on the overall issue of cancel culture. Welcome to Tousi TV, your global news channel. I'm Tousi, and this is your latest political news from the United Kingdom this time and the British government. Now, I'm going to basically explain, for those of you watching from outside of the UK, and we have obviously a huge viewership from around the world, what we're actually talking about when it comes to the pressure on the British government and the British state. And it all goes back to certain groups, including one specific one, Hope Not Hate. And this is nothing new. The problem with this is that they've actually been, relatively speaking, effective, right? In terms of cancellation. But they've also now added Tousi TV on the list of this latest report, which has been given to the British government, Downing Street, obviously, Cabinet Office, as well as the mainstream media and the intelligence services. So one of the problems that we currently face is that it doesn't really matter about your views or even whether you're actually doing something factual. According to this report, State of Hate 2025, and they decided to obviously primarily target Nigel Farage's Reform UK, which is kind of ironic because Hope Not Hate, which as an organization, they happen to be a left-wing pressure group, but they have a massive influence inside the British government and the British state. And it's not really about just the Labour Party. They did the same thing with the Tory government, because it's not really about the ministers, it's about the bureaucrats, the civil servants. They're pressured, the report gets sent to them, and they have a look to see obviously who do they have to keep an eye on for the next few months. And obviously that gets passed on to the intelligence, GCHQ, Home Office, and all these other groups. The police, of course. The problem we have is that Reform UK have actually, on a number of occasions, worked indirectly, let's just say, with Hope Not Hate on when Hope Not Hate were going around vetting, basically, Reform UK's candidates, vetting to cancel them. Reform had to respond, right? Saying, oh, well, we didn't know, thank you, Mr. Hope Not Hate. We'll get rid of this person or that person. But Hope Not Hate are still targeting Reform UK anyway, because they see them as a threat when it comes to the rise of the party. But they also have a problem with Tousi TV now. We've been added to this list, the report that's been sent to the Home Office and Downing Street, and of course the Cabinet Office as well. And none of this makes any sense, by the way, because you actually, in this report, I'm going to show you some of it, you have some very radical people. You actually have ethno-nationalists, you have some people who are just populists, you have people who are just doing new media, commentators, for example. You got different types of groups, and you got some people who are just patriots, and you got some people who are just conservative leaning. But they are, they have done different categories, but they're just saying everybody is basically bad, everybody needs to be cancelled. So the editor, of course, is Nick Lowles, deputy editor. We've got obviously a whole list of these guys as well, the contributors to this report, which is a very, by the way, very well produced and slick report. Like they do have talent. If they just use this to do something more positive in their lives, it would have been quite helpful. So Nick Lowles is obviously the CEO of Hope Not Hate, saying, we welcome to our State of Hate 2025 report, the most comprehensive and analytical guide to the state of far-right extremism in Britain today. So this is the beginning of the issue. The report suggests they're going to be targeting the far right. And by far right, I'm assuming we are talking about ethno-nationalists, right? And those who are more militant and extremist. But then in the whole report, you have everybody now, including myself, this channel, Matt Goodwin, Nigel Farage. It makes no sense. Are you going to be targeting, and Tommy Robinson, because obviously they have an obsession with Tommy, are you going to be tackling the actual, for example, very minority, it's a very small group of ethno-nationalist militant groups, or are you just going to call everybody now far right. Everybody's labeled far right without any credible evidence. Going back to this report, I would say this is the overview. Everything is now focused around what happened last summer with the riots and the protests and everything else. And they shifted the focus because they do these little reports every year. But this time, they realized the rise of new media and channels like Tousi TV and a few others as well means that they have to shift the focus towards us, essentially implying that the existence of these sort of channels, new media channels and big social media channels, means that essentially the protests and riots will be caused because of us. I mean, it makes no sense considering that, neither myself, this channel, or certain others on that list not only didn't encourage the riots, we actually said don't go to them because it's just going to backfire. It's a bad idea. Don't do it. But they don't really care. They also obviously tried to focus on Elon Musk for giving platform to new media and big social media influencers as well, saying Elon Musk is a danger to democracy. Now, this report, the whole point of this, as I said, because it's very well produced, it gets sent to Downing Street, their cabinet office, the home office, all these guys. They think so that they are informed, and then they can monitor every single one of us. For YouTube channels, they can easily go and target, again as a pressure group, YouTube headquarters to shut down the channels, to fully demonetize, for example. They've done this obviously previously with my good friend Carl Benjamin, who now runs Lotus Eaters, a number of others as well. They can also keep an eye on you, in terms of real life and in the outside world, to actually see if you make the tiniest mistake or say the tiniest politically incorrect thing, that they could get the police on your back. Essentially, this is a blacklist that you will be monitored for the rest of your life as long as you continue to do what you're doing. That's why they want to do this now, because they see channels like Tousi TV, we are growing. The fact that they're coming after me now, it's kind of funny, considering that, over the last year, this channel obviously is more of a global geopolitical news channel instead of just focusing on what's going on in the UK. But they have picked a very, very poor photo of me, although I'm standing next to Nigel. So I think they wanted to basically imply, oh, look at Maya Tousi, he's friends with Nigel Farage. Saying, Maya Tousi, an Iranian-born YouTuber and founder of Tousi TV. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you guys at Hope Not Hate for being accurate with your description. His YouTube channel, which has 767,000 subscribers. See, it's now 776. What you need to do, just pick a random number, just put plus next to it. It's easier. Just put, 750,000 plus, because it's going to change everything. We are growing very fast, Nick Lols. Come on. Anyway, saying posts regular videos on a range of far-right topics. Do I? When? Post videos on a range of far-right posts. What is this? Some sort of political commentary channel? Like, what do they think I am? What do they think Tousi TV actually is? You just pick random topics and just talk about them. We're a geopolitical news channel. Most of the actual news reports that we've been doing over the last few months, over the last year, have actually had nothing to do with the UK. We've had the British viewers complaining, saying, come on, Maya, talk about Britain. It's like, well, let's wait for something to happen in Britain. We've had many issues happening in the US, in the Middle East, in Israel, in Iran, in South Korea. Far right. You need to be able to define what it is. Also, we don't do a range of videos. It's not an opinion piece. Anyway, in recent years, he has become a close ally of Stephen Lennon. That's Tommy Robinson, for those who don't know. Attending and speaking at his demonstrations. Ooh, in recent years. So, I don't really care. They're not very accurate in terms of their dates and timings either. I mean, I really appreciate that they put a lot of effort. It's very well produced in terms of the editing, the graphics, the research, basic research in terms of basic stats. I mean, they probably use ChatGPT, but it's inaccurate. It makes no sense. The issue is that the people in government who received this report from Downing Street to the Home Office or the Cabinet Office is that they're not the smartest people. So they do rely on pressure groups like Hope Not Hate to produce these type of reports, to give it to them, to make things easier for Angela Rayner or Keir Starmer to understand. So Keir Starmer is not going to go around himself doing his own daily research on YouTube or X, find out which are the latest threats and channels on the rise, right? So they rely on these guys to give them the report. The problem is that when they produce, I don't really mind. I don't really care about the witch hunt itself. I take it as a compliment. Thank you so much for including me in your report. What the problem I have is that it's not accurate. Now, the actual ethno-nationalists, if you want to call them the militant ones, which, if you want to call that far right, they also don't like Tousi TV. They don't like me. Myself and Stephen Lennon or Tommy Robinson, we've been also fighting against them because they also hate him. Because he's they call him a civic nationalist, right? He's more of a culturalist. He believes in British culture. But you have to be accurate in terms of who is the far right and who isn't. You can't just call everybody far right. It's a very specific set of ideologies. You can't just be like, well, that person is politically incorrect, or that person is mean. That means they're far right. Or that person believes in the Union flag, or that person believes in the border. That means they're far right. No. You're calling Reform UK far right. That makes absolutely no sense. There's nothing far right about Reform UK. In fact, right now, there's nothing right wing about Reform UK because they don't even want radical. Well, they according to Reform UK, we're going to talk about that later again. Even though we thought it's going to calm down, but it's still escalating, the battle between Rupert Lowe and the Reform UK leadership. The latest we have is that Reform UK have now come out to say Rupert Lowe is becoming right-wing. He's coming up with his radical policy ideas like mass deportations or the threat of radical Islamism. For Reform UK as a party, talking about mass deportation or Islamism, that's too right-wing. Reform UK is a centrist, centre-right party. Because if you talk about those things, it's too radical. But for Hope Not Hate, apparently, even Reform UK is far-right. I mean, if they are, then I'm definitely far right, right? Because I definitely say more, radical things compared to Reform UK. But that's my opinions as a person. Obviously not Tousi TV as the entity, because obviously when we report the news, we report the news. Then obviously when I give my opinion on top of it. It's a different thing. But they do what they want to do. I don't really care. So, I care because I need next time, pick a better photo of me. If you want to put in the report, because the rest of the report is very nice. As I say, it's very slick, good editing, great structure, paragraphs, pictures and boxes. Pick a better photo. Just come to my house, take a nice photo of me. Accuracy is important. Anyway, let's get some reaction from you guys. First super chat saying, stay safe, Maya. Now you are on the list. You're a fly in the preparation H, so don't allow them to swat you. I know, right? Also, I'm looking this way. You know why, right? Because there's a certain game right now which is not going too well for us. Arsenal United. Alison says they should call themselves Hate with the no hope. Just hate, right? But some people do call them Hate Not Hope instead of Hope Not Hate, which is kind of funny. Although it's less original now. We do have some factual comments in the live chat as well. What is important for it to be out there? Michael says Maya is so handsome. That is a factual statement. Now, Ivan says Andre Walker is jealous he's an under list. Yeah, Andre needs to try harder. Come on, Andre. Although more recently he's been saying more radical things anyway. For the record, in real life, personal friendship, Andre, if I'm far right, Andre is so far right, he's gone to the left again. He's gone all the way around the center. He's very radical. But in a very common sense way, not in a dangerous way. It's not like he wants to, do something to people. Well, depends. Unless he likes them. Carl says, Maya, you can use my name to carry on with your excellent content. Why would I do that? But you have shave your hair off and stop being so good looking. Okay, I was joking about my ego thing, about me being good looking. Now you're not helping the situation. Tony says from Australia, thank you very much. Hope Not Hate, garbage. Their focus should simply be on Starmer. If if anyone in the UK is removing hope and pushing hate, it's him and his followers of Muhammad loving families. See, you were doing so well until you mentioned Muhammad, Daniel. Then now you're on the list as well, Tony, although you're in Australia, so you're fine. It's a very fair point, because those who are pushing the agendas of hate and removing hope, they are currently in the British government. But obviously, the people around Keir Starmer are the same people who are around Hope Not Hate. So they believe in those policies. They do not believe in hope. They always want negativity to stay, right? They always would rather have something to fight against. They never fight for something. They always fight against things. This is the problem with the left. They never have anything to be actually be promoting. They always just say, we have to continue to fight against something. So they always want a boogeyman. They always want hate. They always want an enemy, because otherwise they'll be out of business. And then what they do is they gaslight you by saying, for example, Tousi TV is the one who wants hate. I'm like, no. You're just creating a scenario, and you believe your own lies, because if you keep telling yourself that, you're going to believe that. It's the same what they've done with, for example, Tommy Robinson. They know there are actual ethno-nationalist militant groups out there. Small people, not many people, right? They know they are different to Tommy, but they don't care, because they still personally don't like Tommy. It's a personal row that started. So they're like, even though we know Tommy is not ethno-nationalist, we're just going to go after him anyway. Because it's business. Everything is business. It has to basically continue. That's their racket. They have to continue. As there's a demand, they have to supply it. Now, Clipper says, if you make a Penfolds list, that's Nichols, then I consider it as a badge of honor to wear with pride. The thing is, I still play it down and laugh around, because I don't see myself as a victim. It's kind of funny. I've been looking forward to this. But jokes aside, when the Hope Not Hate group used to produce these reports, they were giving them to the Tory government, and the Tory government were not really that proactive in terms of implementing the annual reports. Not really. Unless it was someone very dangerous, they would hand it over to MI5 or the Metropolitan Police, counter-terrorism or whatever, to keep an eye on the very, very extremist, violent people, right? But I don't think we should laugh too much, because we now are dealing with Keir Starmer. This is the first time, as Prime Minister, he's receiving this annual report from Hope Not Hate. We are no longer dealing with an incompetent vanilla Tory government. We are dealing with an extremely dangerous and authoritarian Labour Prime Minister. So he is going to be taking this report more seriously than Rishi Sunak did, or Boris Johnson did, or Theresa May did. So times are changing. Usually we used to just ignore the annual reports from Hope Not Hate, but this year it's a little bit, you have to be on standby. And there's a lot of other good names on that list as well, which is a shame, what could happen to them now. Cynthia says, post a range of videos on far-right topics. You mean the news? Massacres in Syria, Israel, and the politics of the rest of the world. Time for a counter-organization making a list of far-left troublesome groups. The thing is, Cynthia is from the US, I'm guessing, because it's got a $sign. We don't really have, even if we produce that list, nothing will get done, because we don't have any access to the state. The left have it. The left could knock on the door of Whitehall and civil service and say, hello, we are this left-wing group. They don't call themselves left-wing group. They just say, we are this very, very self-righteous group. We have this list against hateful people. And they say, oh, well, thank you very much. If we produce this, they're not going to open the door. Whether it's the Metropolitan Police, counter-terrorism, the Home Office, Downing Street, they don't care. It's different to the United States, where you still have some level of freedom in terms of fair treatment of citizens. You can still have Republican-leaning groups or Democrat-leaning groups producing campaigns or starting grassroots campaigns and still be heard. Implementing them, that's a whole different problem, depending on who's the president or the governor of your state. Anyway, Clipper says, You don't have to read this out, but you just texted that. You just posted the comment. But Penfold can. That's why. Yeah, that's why you said that. Yep. For all the liberals celebrating the holy month, they need to. Oh God, here we go. They need to read Surah Toba 5 to know what is the real far right. Anyone taking stance against the racist violence ideology is far right to them. Coffee and Cake says, what do you think of how Christians have been slaughtered in Muslim nations just for practicing being Christian? Well, you know my views. It's not a good thing. It's immoral and it's very naughty. Don't kill Christians. And as we reported last night about what's going on in Syria, where are all those Western liberals who were celebrating al-Jilani's victory against Bashar al-Assad? Yes, Assad was a dictator. We already know that. We don't want him back. But al-Jilani is a nutter, is a Sunni Islamist nutter who's going around targeting Christians. They don't care. Just like they didn't care about what happened in Congo or Nigeria to Christians. Blackfish Blue says, I loved the Queen. Now I'm fine with Charles abdicating the monarchy being abolished altogether. Wow, if the monarchy is abolished, then obviously when it comes to having a republic with this political culture, you're basically changing King Charles, who's basically eventually going to be going, to an elected, left-wing elected head of state, which will be a corrupt politician. Now, people can like or dislike King Charles, but King Charles is a human. It's not really about the king. It's about the crown. The crown is the constitution. The kings and queens come and go. It's the crown that doesn't change. That's consistent. Now, when it comes to if you turn Britain into a republic, now obviously when it comes to countries like the United States, I'm a massive defender of the republic in the US. Firstly, that's not a normal republic. So the checks and balances are very, very strong. But if you have a wishy-washy republic, the people who say, we don't like politicians, they're all corrupt, we have too many of them because they're corruptible and we elect them, and then obviously because they rig the system, the left-wingers keep getting into power. What's the solution? Let's create a republic where the head of state is also elected. So you just want another elected left-wing corrupt politician, right? And that's the problem. And you give too much power to them. Whereas the crown is the safety net. Now, this is not in defense of King Charles, because you can like or dislike him. He's an individual. But the crown, as a constitution, must be defended. Unless you have a better solution. You can't just say republic for the sake of republic, because there are different versions. If you even implement the French style, first you have to describe which republic of France, then it's going to be a mayhem. It's going to be like Syria. You give too much power to one man to actually run the whole country. Heather says, I swear people are trying to take away everything I like to make me completely lose my S, even from the UK. Too old for this. It's okay, Heather. Drink some tea. We'll be fine, guys. We'll be fine. Myself says, you have to excuse the hope not hate on this one. They are trying to make Haji great again, but hang in there, Tousi TV. Let's get some non-super chats as well. Aaron, and our non-profit says, you are impartial when it comes to politics. Well, I'm objective, not impartial, but yeah. You explain to viewers what is going on in terms that they will understand. They find that a threat. I forgot that truth is lies and ignorance is strength. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, for the record, yes, I'm not impartial. I'm objective. Everybody knows my leanings. I got my biases. I'm not going to try to hide them. But when I give the actual report the facts, I report the facts. Then I give my opinion, and you know what's my opinion, what's a fact. Carol says, and yes, I'm not party political, so I don't really have any. I'm impartial when it comes to party politics. Carol, thank you. I'm a moderate conservative, but the new liberals shifted so far. We're all far right now. A term that's weaponized. Yeah, it's weird though, because firstly the new liberals, a lot of the people who used to call themselves libertarian now call themselves neoliberal. In Britain, libertarians in America mean something else. They're very radical, in a good way. But in the UK, they just became neoliberals, and they took it way too far, because the whole point of it was supposed to be pushing for economic liberalism, free market and small state. But then they brought in social issues into neoliberalism. What's that got to do with anything? Then they started pushing wokeism. Like, you guys are not supposed to be left wing, you idiots. So they got basically mixed with the actual left wing socialists, and they still call themselves liberal. You can't just be. That's the problem. A lot of the liberals are basically socialists now, and they are destroying liberalism as a concept. Idiots. Another super chat saying free speech is not an option, but the obligatory free Tommy. Well, free speech we don't have that legally in the UK, so that's one of the problems. In the US, you guys actually have it constitutionally. You have free speech. Well, we don't. We have permission from the state to have a certain level of free speech, certain level, but we don't actually have a legalized or constitutional free speech in Britain. The last boomer says, "Rise Britannia, much support from America." Thank you so much, last boomer. And the Viking says, "Has Charles admitted being a Muslim yet?" There's a lot of memes and theories on social media over the last few days about this, especially after what happened in Windsor Castle, which was a little bit odd, right? In case you don't know, Windsor Castle, they started doing Ramadan, iftar thing, all this stuff, right? But with the Islamic side. Windsor Castle is the main castle for the king of this country, of this kingdom, and the crown. The king of this country is also the head of church, and that's Church of England. He's the defender of faith. He's not the defender of all faiths, because he wanted to do that. When he was prince, his plan was to become the defender of all faiths, and they told him, "Yeah, Charlie, you can't really do that." And he said, "Fine." You cannot bring a religion, if you want to call it a religion, it's an ideology, Islam, that is proactively opposing Jesus Christ and his message, because they see Jesus as an intern messenger, right? That's how they see him in Islam. You can't bring that into Windsor Castle, the home of church, essentially the home of the crown, which is supposed to be protecting Church of England. It makes no sense. So a lot of people are saying, well, have we fallen now? Is this the end? It's just completely embarrassing. Oh no, Maya, I'm convinced. Give us William, hoping George will be enlightened. Well, the thing is, the good thing about the new generation, because every generation fights back. There's a backfire usually against the previous generation. So the younger generation Z and the new one, which is Alpha, I think, are now going against wokeism that was introduced by the millennial generation, the millennials and the older generation Z. I know it's too many different random generations to keep up on, but there is a bit of hope that the younger kids, they seem to be less wokey, so they are fighting back against that sort of level, because the millennials who were young and doing the wokey things, they are now older. They're now basically teachers, and they hold managerial jobs. So the kids are now rebelling against those guys, because kids always rebel against the previous generation anyway. So we can only hope. Like kids are always kids anyway. Coco says, "Blessings from Israel." Thank you, Israel. To all the supporters, thank you for your dedication and support. Thank you for watching, Coco. And Ivan says, Mohammed Charles Windsor. You can't stop yourself, can you? I think we should put Ivan on the Hope Not Hate list with his daily comments. He wants to get cancelled. And Haley says, Maya should have been a teacher. So much patience. Alcoholism helps. I'm kidding. I'm kidding, right? Anyway, this is what they're doing now. Let's get some non-super chats before people get angry. We have got Niall saying, if Starmer starts banning free speech, which we already have, by the way, as we know it, he will not survive the next election. That is guaranteed. We'll see. We'll see. There is still a big chunk of this country who are authoritarian and would like more. In the name of security and order, they will always vote for more authoritarian options than more pro-liberty options. You will be surprised. How right you are. Casey's out of place. That's King Charles, not the King's Council. We are a Christian country, full stop. The sooner he steps down, the better. Thing is, we have to hope William is not the same, because I don't know, William, people used to think is more mature, because Charles was always the emotional child in the family anyway, sort of like Prince Harry, and he was more of a sensitive soul. But William has been doing and saying some weird wokey things as well, which, people are going like, how is he going to be? Although, perhaps we could hope that Catherine could talk some sense into him, because I don't know. Maybe. We'll see what happens after King Charles. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. We're going to take a break and come back and give you guys the latest update on what's going on with Rupert Lowe and Reform UK. And hopefully later on we'll have more information about what's going on in Syria. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Tousi, and we are the media.